so much for watching Hello Day. We appreciate you. This podcast is getting more and more interesting as we move along, and we cannot do this without you. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this content. And of course, tell a friend to tell a friend. Shiko Kaitani here, as always, Kamakawa Kamake. We've got an interesting discussion for you. And so please, for the next 30 minutes or so, tafadhali, stick with us because we promise you're going to absolutely love this. Of course, all of this is in partnership with Jenga Leo, which is an amazing co-working space. We're based here in Kilimani, and we want to say a big thank you to the team at Jenga Leo for supporting the Hello Day podcast. This time around, we're talking about money, money, money. And we thought it would be really interesting to actually take a look at our money habits and take a look at how women are actually spending their money. How are men spending their money? Very interesting debate. I'm so excited to have this lady back on my set. Last time we met, we were actually live on television. This time she's making her debut on my podcast. And we want to say a very big thank you to the institution that she comes from, and that is Ngao Credit. Always positive and progressive conversations with this team. I tell you, a very warm welcome to Grace Njogu, who's here with us today. Gracie!
Hi, Shiko.
Hi. High five.
High five.
For making it to the podcast.
Hello, day.
Yes. Sasa.
How is it?
Yes, how is the world of money?
Makes the world go round.
Right?
The wheels of the world is money.
As in, you guys will always have a job.
Maybe not a job, but we will always be in the money.
You'll always be, yes, right?
Yes,
because
yes.
it's just needed.
It is.
It's needed.
Yes.
So umetubebea pesa kwanza.
Wapi. Wapi.
But anyway, thank you so much, because you know what? I like the fact that you guys are actually progressing as an institution into spaces like this, just to, create financial literacy, and also just talking, combining finance together with the social aspect of it, right? Because it's so important to understand what really could be either holding us back or what is actually helping us, propel us forward in terms of our habits, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And so when we're coming up with this conversation, the first thing that came to mind, Grace, was actually this whole narrative about who has better habits between men and women. But I started to think, is it really about men versus women, or is it about different stages for each gender, and we all spend differently?
So I think, asante sana for welcoming me to this podcast.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank my institution
for
allowing us to have this conversation in the space which is now where everyone else is on.
Yeah.
Above the line, I think we still do some work there, but we want to accept that a lot of the world is in the palm of our hands. And of course, they're consuming this content, financial education on their phones. And so, asante sana for the invite.
Nice.
When I think about who has more money or who is spending their money better, I think it's mostly the societal expectations from each gender and the responsibilities for each gender. So you see that women are going to be spending their money on health, on home development. But when you think about men, they're actually paying bills, they're the ones paying school fees. And of course, they're buying gadgets, they're trying to keep up with status.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep up with the demands of the household. And it's not about who is spending money better. It is who has better money spending habits.
Okay.
We also think about in a home setup.
Yeah.
You have the person who is the long planner, the long-term visionary, the one who is setting up goals like, when will we have our first home? When will we have our first car? And then we have the person who wants to live today.
Yes.
And most marriages, you will find that women are thinking about today, tomorrow. But men have egos, and they are trying to live to make sure that in terms of ranking and societal placement, that they are found in good standing.
Yeah.
So you'll find that they're getting into quiet debt. Somebody's taking out debt, not telling the partner, because they're keeping up appearances, even with their wife. Because a lot of masculinity is around provision.
All right.
And sometimes when things change at work or at business, men are not willing to accept
the situation at hand, right?
Or they are afraid of the consequence of telling your wife, I have lost my job.
Right.
Yeah, so will I still have a family tomorrow? So I don't think it is specifically gender because of whether somebody has testosterone or estrogen. It's the societal expectations around what are my responsibilities vis-a-vis my income. And you find even when in a household where both people are working in the same organization, even when the wife is earning more, the expectation is that provision of a roof
right
the responsibility of the man.
Right.
Yeah, and then the woman is out here, they are taking care of maybe food and the help, but because they know that food and help come maybe daily, you can find that they're spending weekly, the husband has to spend at once at the beginning of the month.
Right.
So societal expectations, the responsibilities of each gender in a household setup, I think those are also affecting which gender has more money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just looking at some of those global statistics out there about money habits, when it comes to men and women. And so you'll find that obviously men, like Grace kind of alluded to that, guys will typically go towards things that are machine related, right?
Yeah.
And of course, when it comes to, I don't know, like more of entertainment type of geared purchases. But then when it comes to women, it's always about consumable goods, right? So when you think about it, women have issues with retail therapy problems, always looking out for the latest fashion. If it's about items within the home, things are through the roof. And sometimes even men even wonder, do you really need that? Like, is it really necessary for you to have like 6 different sets of pots, cooking pots? And the woman is like, yeah.
So I think the advantage the women have is that they have, it's called table banking.
Yeah.
A lot of women are already in chamas. So when you think about how they are spending to acquire these things, once we're saying that it is retail therapy, it's the new dress, it's the
shoes,
the crockery, the latest sufurias.
Yes,
they are not spending from their income. Quietly, the culture of saving is within women, and you find that they are actually buying things for home development.
Yeah,
if you think even about women taking out loans, women are notably risk averse. A lot of them are not found in a lot of this short-term lending. They take a lot of their time when making a decision to purchase or to spend money in an investment. Contrary to the more impulsive gender, the male, they are getting into high-risk investments. A lot of the time it's high impulse. Yeah. And then naturally this table banking is not socially acceptable. You think there is boys' day out.
Right.
There is boys going out to watch the game. Yeah. But there is no boys' chama. If you think the men who are joining the chama, they're joining a chama as maybe it's 2 to 10 women. Yeah. So you can see our society has not accepted the discussion with men around, I do not have enough. Right. And now we are saving so that I can be able to afford. Yeah. Well, these conversations for women, they are very normal. I cannot afford a tank now. Think about your mother. Yeah. Our mothers when they were buying those big tanks. Right. I cannot afford a tank of 40,000 today. But I'll buy it in June. Correct. And there is the saving pattern and the long-term planning and the discipline around saving, so that when they're buying these things, it would appear they look like they're buying a lot of things, but they're not buying from their income. They're buying from the savings.
Wow. Gentlemen, this is where you weigh in. What's this thing about going at it alone? Like, no, I'm a man. What? I don't need help. Like, if I want to get that cow, I want to get whatever it is, I'll do it on my own at my own time. What's this thing about coming together as men? I think there's also a lot of vulnerability you have to be in as a guy to be part of a chama, because women are pretty much like open to these discussions and say, hey, by the way, me this month niko na school fees, I must do blah 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 blah. But I mean, it takes a level of openness and vulnerability for you to be in a setting where you're talking about money. And I don't know if guys are really
into it.
Yeah.
In my observation, I think, and I hope when we're raising children, we're raising the next generation, these are things we're discussing with them. And I think most of the reasons why men are not able even to talk about their finances, especially good or bad, I think there's a little of showiness when someone is doing well.
Well, yes.
And then when they are not doing well, there is the urge to keep up appearances. Yeah. But I think the root problem is around even men being able to express themselves when they are in their lowest moments. Yeah. You see, for a man, for example, to be part of a chama, where there's going to be a lot of women conversation, they are not your typical alpha males. They're not the typical males that our parents were raising boys to be. Because women are supposed to be going to those chama to gossip. They are going to spend the whole day gossiping.
Yes.
It was their outlet.
Yeah.
And then they are also doing constructive things therein. So men who are in this chama, what's wrong with them? Mama, like what are they doing there? Why are they in that chama?
Yeah.
And yet society is expecting that those chama, other than gossiping,
Yes,
and
right.
those chamas of 1,000, when the man is sitting back is wondering, this 1,000 you've been saving for 24 months to translate to 24,000, and the only thing I can see of value is the gossip, because mama nani hakufanya acha mama nani alisema. But when you and I think that's what our society is against. Even now, when people are in the workplace, you can see a lot of the people who are the males in the workplace, even when they are not doing well.
Yeah.
The confiding in another male is not common. It's our society.
Yeah.
Men must not be outwardly projecting that things are going wrong. They're supposed to be the pillar of strength.
Right.
So if they are acknowledging that things are going wrong, there's something wrong with this man, because things should be going well because you're the man.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll hear where there is a man, haparibiki.
I know.
I
know, but then we
saying.
forget that men are also having a very human experience.
It's true.
Right.
And I think even we think about mental health and a lot of the people who are getting, the gender that is getting into depression, rarely is it the females, it's the males.
Right.
They have nobody to talk to. And then there's also, society does not want to accept that this is that the economy, your parents at home have expectations. You are their son, you're their firstborn, you're the first person to maybe drive a car. Now you can't afford to make payments on this car.
Right.
Your mother can't understand. He's already told the villagers, my son is coming for Christmas. So I think our society is to blame.
It is.
And I hope now that we have Gen Zs, there are alternative ways for men to earn an income, but alternatively shame around table banking and circles. That we also shun that shame around table banking. A lot of conversations around, I think there's a podcast I see nowadays where men are also talking about the challenges that they are facing in a safe space, so that they also talk about sometimes we lose our jobs. Sometimes when you are at the workplace, I am not promoted. The bills at home are increasing. We have had, we were just you and I. We now have children. And then I also don't know what's happening. More women are getting promoted. They are more confident in the workspace. So I think there's a lot. There's a lot. Yes.
Let's get back to even that debate about, okay, if I am the man, obviously, like you had said, this is automatically leadership position. But then if I am the leader, it obviously means I'm the one planning out what happens in this home. But here comes in, again, the debate that women are better managers of money or the finances. In your opinion, do you feel that that responsibility of planning finances should actually be on the woman's lap?
I think it is not on the woman's lap, but on the self-awareness of the couple. In most couples, you'll find that there is somebody who is a long-range planner, somebody who can be able to multitask, somebody who has better self-control, so that they're not reacting to their impulse. And then we have somebody who is erratic, high-strung, energetic, impulsive, short-range planning. And gender aside, in a family setup, you need to have these conversations around who am I? And who is my partner? And then the person who has better planning skills becomes the person who then is in charge of our finances.
When
I've seen it working, and I think a friend of mine and her husband, you can tell that one is an auditor. The husband is an auditor.
It's always the husband who's the auditor. Why are you always auditing?
The husband they maintain a meticulous Excel for all bills. So they have current the bills they've been running for a month. If there's a worksheet January, worksheet Feb, March, all the way. And in the worksheet, they have normal expenses, including shopping. And then they want, when there is a slight adjustment, it's a point of conversation. They have date nights. And during those date nights, the conversation is around, how did we spend X?
And women don't like that. And we don't want you to audit us. We just want you to give us the money, okay? Stop asking me questions.
And you can see when the man is taking charge, in such a setup, you can see that the man is the more organized. Or you could call the man petty. Because they're out here now walking around with a walking stick. The cooking oil that we spend for a whole month, It's now over.
How?
Today is the 24th. We bought it on 5th.
Yes.
What did you cook?
Elisha,
What was this that we cooked that we do not always cook? So
Yes.
there's an element of you want the person with the better money management skills to run the household budget.
All right.
But also there's around visibility. A lot of us who eat out for lunch when we're working, we don't have visibility of how much we are spending.
Correct.
On unplanned purchases or unplanned expenses.
Yeah.
And I think this culture where the person with the better management skills is the one now maintaining an Excel, and then weekly you guys hold each other accountable, in that setup seems to be working, because whatever they save from their household expenses, they now spend on vacations with the children. And I think now when I look back, at first when we have conversations at the workplace, I'm thinking, what is this? What is this? How can somebody be walking around asking me how much tissue did we spend?
Right.
What's wrong with them? What is wrong with them? But now you think about if you spend out, for example, all of transparency also, maybe I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
In our current setup, people are almost preparing to leave the relationship. So there's a lot of secrecy around how much do I earn?
Yeah.
And then how much are my bills? So somebody will say, I earn maybe 100,000, and in reality, maybe you earn 300.
All right.
And then this 100, you even say, I sent my mother X amount.
Right.
And you've already sent your mother, so now I have no money.
Yeah.
And the intention is that if I told this man that I make so much money, then I will not be able to.
Yeah.
I will not be able to spend this money on other things I want to spend, or I think he will now not spend on the household responsibilities.
He'll pull back,
and
so
he'll
women
now
have the
spend
fear
it on women, entertainment, and these bad habits. So there's an issue of transparency, and then based on trust.
Yeah,
I don't trust my partner to do the right thing when they know that I can be able to take care of this bill.
And by the way, let's just because that was even a very major point that I wanted to bring up. The issue of transparency around couples is such a big issue. So first of all, women are the ones who are accused of always being the ones hiding how much they earn. But it's the typical, your money is my money and my money is my money. It's our money, right?
Yeah.
So women are always the ones who are chini ya maji, putting a few coins away. But from your perspective, and whatever you're witnessing, do you actually see women actually being on the hush about their investments?
Yes. In fact, we see on my in Kingangi, we hear people that you are living in the house.
Yes.
Where your wife is the landlord.
Yeah.
And they will harass you.
Yes.
When the rent is late. In fact, they start asking for it from 28. Tutafungiwa nyumba. And yet, niye ana collect rent. And the issues around transparency, frankly, are around trust.
Yeah.
When people break trust, especially with infidelity, then it's unfortunate that it would appear people don't go back. Somebody thinks that the reason you were able to have this other family, this other relation, is that you are very liquid.
Yeah.
And you are liquid because I am chipping in 50-50. So your money, you have excess cash that you now have nowhere to spend. So the culture we have right now is, I want to make sure that you have nothing extra to spend out there. So that I can ensure that there's a lot of, you can be home, you are disciplined, you're not out there drinking with the boys, etc. And the issue and transparency is that it's both ways for both men and women. Sometimes men have taken out a lot of debt, but they're not sharing with their spouses.
Absolutely.
Because they also don't trust that when I am not going through a good time, will she stick around?
Yes.
Yeah?
Correct.
Will her family allow her to stick around? They will be calling saying, what a useless husband you married.
Yes.
And then the in-laws are saying, even can't you see the other person's husband even bought her? There's the comparison.
Correct.
That this your husband is not doing too well. Why couldn't you have done better?
Yes.
And so it's in protecting the family image.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deciding that, wacha nikufe mwanaume. I don't want to tell you what I'm going through.
Right.
Because wewe mama yako amekuleta hapa nikuchunge. And the whole family wants me to take care, to be seen, to be able to take care of my family.
Yeah.
And so you can see there is lack of trust from both sides. I do not trust that you have my best interest at heart. And the other person does not trust that if you had excess cash, you would make the right decisions to be able to further our family goals. And then there's also lack of a common goal.
Yeah.
When most of the couples that do very well, especially when it comes to money management, the common goal is there's buy-in for the common goal.
All right.
For example, you'll hear that we have a project to build a house in Kamulu, for example. And this is a project where you guys have bought in together, the husband and the wife.
Yeah.
When they have bought into a project, and this is the savings plan, then of course somebody is being able to keep the records. If it's an Excel, if it's an Access book.
Yeah.
Typically, they will do better financially. And these are not the couples where the love is very hot in the beginning. It is the couples where there was a lot of friendship.
Yes.
So there's a lot of comfort around open communication, around finances, these goals.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to, who did you choose?
Who did you choose?
Who did you choose for a partner?
Yeah, who did you marry?
Yeah, because if you did marry your friend, think about even you and your friend right now. When things are not going well, you pick your call and your phone and you're calling them to explain in great length all the things that have gone wrong, wamesema, wamefanya.
Yeah.
But if this partner you are in the relationship with is not your friend, then issues of transparency, people are not, in fact, love is not enough.
Yeah.
Love is not enough.
Right.
You need to be, it has to be your friend. It must be your friend. And because there is respect amongst friends, where that if this is the bottom.
Yeah.
And then there is working out of the bottom.
Yeah.
Additionally, where there's a lot of respect, this is our goal, this is what you committed, I can keep you accountable.
Right.
Yeah, I can be your accountability partner and say, look, you've not remitted. You're supposed to send 20,000 to our joint NCB account.
What has happened?
What has happened? On the 5th.
Yeah.
One is almost a debt collector. On the 5th. And in time, they build habits.
It's
but
true. Yeah.
to be very, very honest, it does not come naturally. So I hope that sessions around financial education are done to couples, even as they're doing this other couple education.
This to therapy.
The conversations around money are breaking homes now.
It's true. And what is the reason for, of course, high divorce rates? It's always money. It's not even about the love. I can love you, but we're not eating the love. And that's what's actually breaking us, you know?
And it's trust and transparency. Yes.
Yeah. Who do we have to blame for all of this? At the end of the day, this lack of transparency, it feels like it's been passed down from generation to generation, because I can swear that my aunties have told me, Usi, why don't you dare tell a man how much money you're earning? If you want to, by the way, if you want your marriage to last, don't tell that guy. And I have guy friends who have been told by their fathers, never tell a woman that you're broke. Ever.
In fact, when you think about the Kerimas, and when the gentleman died, the wealth he had amassed in his lifetime, I think some of it is going to be lost because the family did not have a full picture of what he had amassed in his lifetime. And I think it is how we are brought up. Women are from Venus and men are from Mars.
Yes.
If I told my partner that I had gotten a promotion and I'm earning more than him, what would happen? Resentment, quiet competition.
Right.
Immediately somebody starts saying that you are not listening to me because you see,
you're not submissive, by the way.
And I'm telling you, the submission was okay until yesterday when I produced the letter saying now I am X. And I love that. and it is these roles.
Yes.
Who is the provider in a family setup?
Right.
It is the man.
Yeah.
And even when circumstances have changed, the young men who are now getting into relationships with young women, and you're getting into the same job market, maybe the woman is going up faster. If she starts earning more than you, the relationship just automatically ends. Because you feel as if I have lost my value in the household because I no longer am providing. I'm not providing enough. I will never ever provide enough for her because when I am doing the most to pay rent, etc., all this other money she's keeping. And now the man is resentful. You earn so much more than I do. However, I'm required to carry the heavy bills. So I think it's the way we are brought up. And unfortunately, it's Africa. And then there's also the conversation of money did not happen at home. I'm sure even when you were growing up, there was a time when your parents, if your father used to earn more than your mom, at some point that must have changed. There must have been somebody who is, even if it's business, sometimes business is doing well, sometimes the person it's not doing very well. So the person who is employed is the one taking care of the bills. And these conversations are when things change, did not happen at our dinner tables.
We never heard about it.
We never had this conversation because uko hash mama yako anapea pesa zote baba yako afanye yeye budget. So a long time
so
ago,
that your father can pay.
Yes, afanye budget. In fact, Yesterday I went to a bank, Africa Bank Summit.
Yeah.
And in the conversation was around Kitambo, you'd get, if you opened an account, you're given a passbook. And in the passbook, you were supposed to come with your spouse. So even if the spouse used to earn the money, she cannot come with the passbook. She comes with her husband.
Oh my goodness.
So it's how we grew up. Our parents, yes, it's how we grew up. And I think what needs to change now is what are we communicating to our children?
All right.
Number two, where are these conversations happening? Are they happening for the first time when somebody is earning? Because if you think about how people get into debt, how people get into poor financial decisions, it's because their first interaction with money was when they got employed. The conversations around saving, money, investment did not happen at home. In fact, you do not know what decision people were making to move from this house to the other house. If you guys moved from a rental house that was stone built and then your parents said it, now we have to go to our own shamba and we start with a mud house. You are not involved in the conversation. The change happened, you resent them. You are not clear why are we making these changes? And those conversations, even now, you and I who are parenting, we're not having those conversations. We're giving these children a dream life. We're saying that, this is the life I want to give him. The business of how we earn our income. What we need to do to make this money. What we need to do to make sure that this money is going to be here for the next 10, 20 years.
And how to multiply it.
That conversation is not happening at home.
Absolutely.
And for as long as it's not happening at home, this is going to be our cycle. More and more young men are going to be getting into depression. Because unfortunately, there are more girls now who are educated. When we were saying that we have to empower the girl child, we am over-empowered. Now the boy child, akokua inaumia. So many of them don't have access to jobs. They also are not as educated. The opportunities are very limited for them. There are so many of them as well. And then there's this expectation from society that they need to have figured it out by maybe 30, 35, 40. And the world has changed. The cost of living is very high. So I think the conversations need now to go back home. So that we encourage our children who are in campus or in secondary schools that this indeed there's an expectation as a man to provide. And there's also an expectation that you should move out into your own home. But if you're not ready, you don't have to. I live in Nairobi, you go to school in Nairobi. Why are you also paying rent? This money that you're also making, save this money and open something small. So that somebody is living in Kahawaskari, they are paying 20,000. You live Uku Kiambu, you own your own home. If this son can commute, watch our commute. So that even the business of, they know why am I not living in a rental house is so that I can be able to stay here until I am strong enough to stand on my own. So pushing these children out at 18, wameingia kwa Zenka loan, Tala loan, this loan, that loan, and then they are listed on CRB. When they're employed, they cannot access these loans.
Because they've already ruined their credit score before even, hitting the age of 25. Let me tell you something. This is actually an eye-opener for quite a number of people, but I also need you at this particular point, right, to play psychologist. I had even told you I'm going to need you to do this, right? Give some advice, if you will, to individuals who are dealing with partners who are excessive spenders, even the ones who are even trying to get to know each other. If you just if it's the lady who's the excessive spender, if it's the guy who's just spending money, like you had said, on keeping up with the Joneses. What do I do? What do I do with that partner?
So I think the conversation must always start with I. You must talk about in the relationship, how does this spending habit affect you? As opposed to shouting and saying, hey, you're spending all our money, nini. That conversation is not constructive. And people will go into defensive when they think that they are under attack. So I think the conversation must start with when they spend this money in that way. And the conversation must be calm. So it must not be immediately after you've discovered somebody bought. A friend of mine, the husband bought a PS5. Did not pay rent.
Now you see.
Did not tell her they've not paid rent. Then the husband bought the PS5. So like later on, around the 24th, then the landlord is asking, guys, am I the one who missed the payment? And she's sure you missed it. So she calls the husband, who says, let me call you back. So the first conversation is around after the event, post-event, Discuss how this spending affects you, how it affects the future of your family if you have a small family. And this conversation cannot be held in the heat of the moment. So a lot of maturity, self-awareness, and self-restraint. Because
I'm gonna walk up into that house and
then there will
I
be
don't
no
know,
solid.
karate chop you in the
I can
stomach
imagine.
for buying a PS, and we don't have anywhere to live for the next 1 month.
Yeah. So start with how does this habit affect you, and then make sure that and I'm sure there will be no remorse in the beginning.
Yeah.
But make sure that you also set up a conversation weekly or every fortnight to be able to converse around money.
Yeah.
You would do well to set a single goal, a goal which is dear to both of you. And then you have to come up with realistic ways of saving towards the goal.
Okay.
What I will not encourage is if people have been spending their weekends partying and they spend a little bit of the money, cold turkey withdrawal will not work. So maybe the conversation needs to be around reducing that amount, and so the amount is redirected to something else. So you can go out, but now, maybe you go out twice in a month as opposed to 4 times, so that these other 2 times we do this.
Correct. Yeah.
Another conversation that needs to happen is, why are these people keeping up appearances? So the root cause, and I think this is where I want to say, seek therapy. People are dealing with serious issues. Find that maybe, and this happens to both people who grew up privileged and those who grew up struggling.
Yeah.
So you could see that they are healing traumas from childhood. For example, you grew up not comfortable.
Okay.
And then you get comfortable, and then your finances change, and you can't go back because it means that you have failed.
Of course.
So you need to think about exploring therapy for these people to just go and confront their demons. Because if we grew up struggling and I had done my best to make sure we are out of this pit, and now it seems like I'm going back. So it's like those are called generational curses. So and those stories. So I think therapy around things change. How do we adapt? And then of course therapy at the workplace. What happens when your job changes? What happens when your income changes? What happens when you get a new member of the family, if you get a child? We assume that people are ready to take care of people.
But they really aren't.
They aren't. So the conversation, either it's in churches, whether it's in schools, whether it's happening at the office space, conversation around what happens when we have children. Because it's a rude awakening to everyone. When you discover we were just the 2 of us, now we have to pay a nanny. We also have to buy food. It's and then when children go to school, also there's a complex conversation of school fees. So a lot of our young are not ready.
So
and then I think also lastly is also around like, I think this conversation is bigger. It's a wider conversation around health, mental health, and being able to associate, not deriving value from your status. For example, Shiko, you need also to do other things to be able to demonstrate that your value is not your resources. And unfortunately, in our churches, in our places of work, where we live, it is if you are a member of a church and you pay the highest tithe, and the member of the church who does not pay tithe or does not pay a significant amount, you can see that there is also almost like a classist system in most of these social setups we have. Or if it's in the family setup, the in-law who drives the Range Rover. There's even this joke in this satire. It's the way you look at this person. And sometimes they're really doing the most to keep up appearances. So I think also expectations. And it's a wider conversation. And it's not going to be cured anytime soon.
It's a continuous,
it's a continuous
thing.
But I think explore therapy. And then sometimes, how do I say, if somebody's in gambling, for example, there are deeper problems.
There are deeper problems because that's an addiction now.
There are deeper problems.
And I think we will actually, hopefully as we move along, in terms of our series on financial awareness, we'll be able to tackle such conversations. But what I'm getting from you, Grace, is that, you have a passion on talking to people about financial literacy and what have you. Is this something that they can explore with you away from this kind of a platform? And does Ngao Credit, for example, accommodate such, conversations even in office? with their clients if they needed this kind of advice?
Yeah. So I personally, I also do this for some of my clients.
Yeah.
But additionally, even as Ngao Credit, financial literacy is part of our 2025-2030
Yeah.
goal. The goal is to just raise a better, a more informed, or a more financially literate generation.
Yeah.
So we are doing currently a partnership with a book publishing company.
Okay.
And one of the things we also want to do is we want to package the book partnership with now mentorship.
Yeah.
So we want to go to schools, mostly secondary schools
Oh,
and primary
yay.
schools.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, so that we are educating at that level. A lot of the people who are there, maybe I'm an expert in commerce, that is in making businesses money. Other people are yes. My business is the business of making companies money.
Hey, we need to talk with Grace Numaya Tent.
So yeah, I have a good eye for a good business, a good business model.
Yeah.
I can tell when the strategy is good, when the strategy is off, when the revenues are wrong, when the revenues are right.
Yeah.
And then there are people also who are very good at credit risk management. So you've borrowed and now you're in credit, then they are able to organize your finances so that they can be able to give you reprieve. And then there are also people who are also very good with now of the finances, the bookkeeping. How do you be able, what are the right ratios to make sure that your organization is profitable?
Right.
And those expertise is what we want now to take it to the schools, because we acknowledge that the conversation is not happening at the right place.
Okay.
So the conversation is going to be happening where in such forums for people who have access to this content.
Yeah.
But we think that it should happen at the schools, at the secondary schools, at the universities, in preparation for a generation that is more financially literate.
Wow.
So
amazing.
a few of my peers are also going to be going around some universities just to be able to spend time to talk to those students. We want to do it for free first.
Yeah.
Because we want to see how many of those students are going to willfully register.
Right.
For an 8-week session where we do just financial literacy. We'll try and make sure that there's an assessment at the end.
Okay.
We know that we also want to absorb some of them into our internship programs.
Nice.
During those internship programs, some of them will be at the finance department. They'll earn a bit of the money. And then obviously we will have an opportunity to explore whether they're using these skills we've given them to be able to better manage their finances.
Wow.
We will not win alone. So we welcome all other organizations that are in the lending space, people who are talking, people in the mental health space. We also are looking for churches, other companies that are willing to be able to change the narrative. It is very good to say that our country is leading when it comes to digital lending. Okay. But then there's a bigger problem. Why is it leading? Why is it leading? What would be the alternative way for this generation to make income? A lot of them are what are we calling the digital economy? They're flourishing, they're TikTokers.
Yeah, the orange economy.
And the problem is we're also seeing in that space that there are others that are being caught up in debt, they're being caught up in in the same, just keeping up appearance. Things have changed, but they don't want to change the image.
Absolutely.
So this is a wider conversation. We hope we can continue here and elsewhere.
Wow. Yes. A big thank you to Ngao Credit for partnering up with us on this particular episode. A big thank you to Gracie for making time. If you love this particular conversation, why don't you let us know, by the way, if you've got also any questions that you'd like to actually post right in our comment section below this video, please do so. Would be happy to also put you in touch with individuals like Grace, because this is an expert-led podcast, okay? And we're happy to connect you because it's all about life balance issues, okay, on this podcast. So thanks a lot for watching Hello Day. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.